Okay, so let's talk about Centurion Scabbard real quick on my escalation run solo. Why do I run this, and why is this the ideal way that I do things? And why do I not use Whiplash? Some people use Whiplash, and I don't think that's a wise idea. Centurion Scabbard, in simplest terms, do these two things, correct? It does rate of fire and damage on the first one, the uncrowned, and then the second attribute gives you the 50% max size and 50% reload speed. Now, when you want to do the swap, you want the uncrowned for your DPS, so you have the extra rate of fire and the extra damage. But when you swap to your uncrowned by going to your pistol and going back to the weapon that you were holding originally, like in my case, the MK46, it'll reload your gun with the second attribute. I don't know why it does this, but it does. So we're going to use this fact that it does reload it. So every time you swap to your pistol, then swap it back to your weapon, it will swap attributes. So let's say that we're facing an enemy right here, yeah? I'm going to shoot people until our gun is empty, or whenever the Centurion buff and the back and forth buff is over, we swap to our pistol, and then back to our LMG. Now this is reloaded, but we don't want to shoot with this, okay? Because now you only have the reload buff, and you also only have the ammo capacity buff. We don't care about that. We're going to switch to our secondary weapon. In this case, I'm using an agitator. And agitator is great with the synergy because this thing already gives 20% and 20% rate of fire and 20% weapon damage. Agitator also gives you another 25 and another 30 when you're holding it after it's primed. So, in case like this, when you're shooting with this gun, the MK46 with back and forth, when you empty your mag, just about, it'll run out of both the buffs for back and forth and for Centurion Scabbard. So that just ran out in time. We're going to go back, and we're going to reload our MK46. Then, you're going to pass on to your agitator with the primed buff, with the 30% and the 25. So now, you're doing much more damage than you were if you just used one buff. And then now, when that buff is over, repeat, reload it with the extra 25 bullets, swap back to the back and forth MK46, and you keep shooting. This process denies the need for you to reload. It saves you time, and it gives you more damage per gun that you're using. It's a win-win. There's nothing better than this, in my opinion, currently, for solo escalations. Because, let's say, for example, we're using a very normal frenzy build that people would do with, what is this? Hollow Man and Sheska Vigilance backpack, or maybe even Striker backpack with Fox's Prayers and Contractor's gloves. Well, I'm not using it because I don't have it anymore. You would find that whenever you're done with your frenzy cycle, you have no targets to shoot. And that's a bit of a bummer because not only is this going to be a downtime of 3 seconds that you have to reload like here, you also have to account for the people that are pushing you or also just making it hard for your life. That's why I don't run Frenzy anymore on solo. It doesn't really do anything, even though I have a triple max one right here. So, that's why I kind of just stick to back and forth MK46 with Agitator, Centurion holster. There is one more instance that you have to be careful about with Centurion. Centurion can bug out really easily because of the netcoding of this game. The second talent and the first talent can get mixed up in between. The weapon damage will be put in the second one, while the magazine size will be put in the first one. So you're only getting the rate of fire and magazine size, but you're losing 20% weapon damage. How can you tell when this is happening? When you're swapping to your primary attribute weapon, and it reloads to the second attribute, then you know it's bugged. Like this. When you pull it out, and it just reloads to 202, I'm going to empty this again. And there's also another way you can tell that it's bugged when you switch to your second attribute and it actually doesn't reload back to your max ammo capacity. Because this is supposed to be 75, not 69. When we swap back to the LMG, it's at 202 on the first attribute. You're losing 20% damage over the 50% ammo capacity. So how do you fix this? You just swap it to a regular holster and back onto Centurion Scabbard. That just immediately disables it. You swap out to your pistol. And whichever weapon that you want to have the Centurion first talent buffs, then you swap to that weapon. Because we still haven't decided on which weapon that has the first talent and second talent. The weapon that you swap to next will always have the first buff. So going here, the agitator now will always have the first buff. And then you can now swap it back to the second buff, and then swap to your LMG for the first buff, and the vice versa. You just keep doing this. The reason why you would bug your Centurion is if you swap too fast. Because doing this, you can bug it out, and that will be 202 again. So if that keeps happening, just unequip and equip it back again. Some people like to have the fire rate buff and the magazine buff at the same time, but it is ideally better to just keep that weapon damage over just keeping a rate of fire. Now, there is one variation of the Centurion Scabbard that you can do with back and forth. Instead of doing it on the LMG, you can put it on a backup boomstick for a back and forth attribute. Since pistols don't actually have a back and forth talent, you can put it on a boomstick because the boomstick is considered a shotgun. Or you can do it for a double barrel sawed-off. You can do it for that too. You don't have to do backup boomstick. It just gives more shotgun damage base. It's kind of nice when you need it. But with this now, you have both back and forth buffs for a perfect measured gear shift, which is also a pretty good choice of weapons that you can do. Now, why do I say you don't want to use Whiplash? Simple thing is, when you're using Whiplash, it does the same thing that your Centurion Holster Scabbard is already doing. And you're also losing out on the agitator slot, which also does more damage than the Whiplash is worth. So, when you're shooting with the Centurion on your LMG like this, and you run out of ammo, you do your swap, right? But because you hit the Whiplash's reload here, the reload on your Centurion actually doesn't really do anything. So you're basically losing out on agitator, which is arguably much more damage than an assault rifle with back and forth, trying to get this to go. Like, you can definitely do it, but it's pretty suboptimal in my opinion, because you're already losing out the movement speed from quickstep, which if you're trying to do a fast timed run, any seconds shaved off of a quickstep, it's pretty important. But this doesn't do anything. You're basically losing out on a pistol slot. So what I would do is the variation I talked about earlier, the sawed-off double barrel with back and forth. Then you can run agitator again. So now, when you do this and you reload it, you have the buff for your boomstick. And then you can also just go back and just shoot. This will give you the buff for the perfect measured, while also giving it to your agitator as well. Like, you do this, you reload, and then you go to your agitator, and boom. This one now also has that back and forth buff from originally from the MK46. Now I'll show you a little bit of commentary on how I do this solo when I'm running with a decoy. Since Tech Override is on right now, the decoy is a little bit more powerful than it should be. But even then, when you have a decoy out, you should mostly be able to do the things that I am doing if you have an expertise 30 decoy. Without it, the 30 Fred actually does matter quite a bit when you're running solo. But agitator should compensate for some of it. So, hopefully this will make sense in a second. If we just go in here, we first load up our LMG. I don't really want to use my agitator at the start. We're going to look around for musketeers. All for one attributes, like that guy. We're going to drop a decoy next to him. Let that take aggro first. He's going to pop up, and we're going to shoot him. And that kills everybody. With our Centurion buff and our back and forth buff from the shotgun. Now everybody is dead. We move on to the next room where they spawn out from here. Swap to your LMG to reload it. Then go back to your agitator and start blasting. Again, look for the people with all for one buffs. You shoot them, swap weapons, keep doing this, vice versa, and you have a pretty good damage set going on out here. Just make sure that you play it slow. Make sure you understand what buffs that you have and what buffs you don't, because if you don't, then you're kind of missing out the full potential of Centurion Scabbard.
Protect the asset. Of course, sir. Everything under control there, Sumner? Jones? I'm on top of it. Thanks.
bunker. There's an entrance just ahead. You should still be able to catch them.